It's recording now. So I paused it when I joined the meeting because it started recording straight away. I didn't want to record myself just sat there staring at a computer screen. Um, anyway, yeah. First question: how did you get into the industry and why?
Oh, well, I've always loved musical theatre. Like when I was a kid, we used to go and watch musicals. Like so that was the thing. I think from about the age of 11, um, we used to get like our Christmas present uh, was like a show, and we'd go down as a family to London and watch a show. And I remember the first time I went to see a show, and it was Joseph, and I don't think I've ever really thought about it before. I never really thought that it was a job or it existed or anything. And then I saw the narrator, so Lindsay Haitley played the narrator, and I just was like, I want to do that. If that's a job, that's the job I want to do. But never really thinking that I could, and just kind of still following it as a hobby. But yeah, that's probably. And then my parents are singers as well, so
Right.
they're a duo. So I used to go and sing in like pubs and clubs with them when I was a kid. Yeah, and that's that's how I got into it really.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
What drama school did you go to?
I went to Arts Ed,
Yeah,
so yeah, I did the 3 year
that's the
musical
one
theatre.
everyone goes to. Everyone seems to sort of go to Arts Ed and Mount View. If I see a
It's,
show, if I see a
they're like,
show
so
flick, if I see a
I
show
would,
flick through the program, it's always Arts Ed, Mount View, Guildford.
yeah, they're your
My mum
kind
sat
of
next to
like.
me. My mum sat next to me, going, "You should go there. You should go there." Everyone seems to go there.
Do you want to go to drama school?
I've just done 3 years at uni because that's sort of at the time when I was auditioning, I just didn't feel confident to put myself up for drama schools. I
Okay.
think because they're so are difficult to get into, and obviously it's 3 years of intensive training. And I think when I finished my BTEC course, I just didn't feel I was quite ready as a performer. I didn't think I was good enough to get into drama school, so I sort of chickened out of it and went to uni for 3 years. And so I was going to go and do, a postgrad at a drama
Hmm.
school, but that got put on hold. So hopefully at some point and start fucking up and auditioning and that
Yeah.
postgrad. I still had a lovely 3 years. Um, we did the cats in our second year as our
Oh,
second
did
year.
you?
That was a fun one. One of the former cast members came in and did a workshop with us, and it was the most embarrassing thing.
Do you dance well?
More of an actor singer,
Cats, honestly, cats is probably my worst nightmare.
which is why I was lucky because I played Gus, so I just got to in
Right.
the background. My song was I was sat down during it, so it was fine.
Yeah.
Sat at the front, but yeah. So, what was your first job at drama school?
My first job after drama
Yeah,
school
yeah.
was Rosalind in As You Like It, a UK open air tour. So, trained in musical theatre, went straight into a Shakespeare play, which was, and I think that's where my career went for like the next 7 years. It was so weird and sporadic and doing lots of different things. But honestly, I wouldn't change it. And we did it was 3 months. It was like a month's rehearsal and 2 months of touring. And we did like, it was a nightly thing. So one day we'd be in Scotland, and then the next day we'd have to be in, I don't know, like North Wales or whatever. And
Yeah.
we would be on the road for ages and just staying in these travel lodges, like 4 of us to a room. And I think it was, honestly, the cast were the most amazing group of people. And I think for me, kind of having trained in musical theatre, and we kind of got used to the world of musical theatre where, you have dressers and you have all this stuff, and then suddenly doing this play where we had to put the set up ourselves, and the girl that was playing Phoebe was also our stage manager, and it was just a real kind of introduction to a very different side of the business. And I think it was probably one of the best things that happened for me, because it gave me a different appreciation, I think. So, and I loved it, and I didn't realize as well how much that I loved Shakespeare until that point. And I've done a couple of Shakespeare jobs now.
After sort of training in musical theatre for 3 years, how did that sort of job come along? How did you end up doing sort of Shakespeare?
Well, so I was one of the few people in my year that didn't get an agent. So I was, in the showcase, and everybody got their interest, and I didn't get any interest whatsoever. And at the time, I remember it being literally the worst thing in the world. Like, I was like, the rejection that you feel at that point. So then I was like, right, nobody's going to represent me. I'm going to represent myself. And I literally put myself up for anything and everything. I was just like applying, anything that I saw was casting. I just was like, this is like back in the day when you'd have to write letters, and I applied for. I saw it in the stage, and it was called Chapter House Theatre Company, and they were looking for actors for it, and I just applied, and then I had to get the train up to Lincoln, which is where the auditions were. And then they literally, I think what had happened was that they hadn't found their Rosalind, and so they had another day of auditions, and I went, and they literally called me that night and was like, "We'd like to offer you this job," and it meant I had to leave drama school 6 weeks early. So it was how quickly, as well, like how quickly things change, and how one minute you're like, nothing's happening, and then you get a phone call, and suddenly your world's kind of, it's going in a completely different direction. So yeah, that's how that came about, from being really gutted that I didn't get an agent, into me going, well, I'll be my own one then.
See, we would have had, if COVID hadn't happened, my uni were going to do a showcase for us at the Charing Cross Theatre. But obviously that never happened. So all of last year I was just sort of sending stuff off to agents, and did manage to get one in the end, which is nice. But of all the years to get an agent, this year to get one would have been pointless. But I mean, yeah, but no, it was all right. I've got one now, and it's nice to say I've got an agent. Not heard from one in a while, but it's nice to say I've got one. And is there, when you got into the industry, is there stuff that you've learned drama school didn't teach you?
Oh, so much. So much. I sometimes say, oh, there's a very loud seagull just up there. It literally looks like I'm in Barbados or something, with that palm tree in the background and blue sky, doesn't it? Yeah, like, I honestly feel like you can learn everything you possibly want at drama school, or can, and you'll get out into the industry, and there will be so many things that they're unable to teach you, and that you can only learn on the job. And yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think about what that, pinpoint what that is. But I just think probably when I left drama school, I was really green. I was really naive. I was really like, I don't know. Maybe even the fact that I just was just like, things just get done for you. Like, your dresser will just provide things for you and hang out my costume. And it's like, no, just be a good human being, and like, let's all work together as a team. Like, and also things like, I think we sometimes as actors feel like we're the most important people, but actually, without all of those wonderful people supporting you, with the crew and stage management and the wardrobe department and box office and everybody, there would be no audience, and there would be nobody coming to watch you, and you wouldn't have a costume, and you wouldn't be on stage at the right time, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if I think that's what the business teaches you more than anything, is the importance of teamwork. That I just think when you're in drama school and you're there for yourself, and you're there for your 3 years, and all I want to get an agent when I leave this. And so, yeah, I think if I can think of anything, it would probably be that's most important.
I think it's easy to forget.
Go and like do something to the seagull. Like, shh.
I think it's easy to forget as an actor that when you do something on stage, there's multiple people around you that have made that moment happen. When you're doing, I don't know, Bring Him Home and Les Mis, it's an amazing moment. As an actor, there are people who have made that moment happen. The lighting and the sound and the orchestra, things like that. Yeah. And so obviously, in all the shows that you've done, you've obviously been an understudy and things like that. What's sort of the biggest challenge as an understudy, especially when you're covering multiple roles?
Well, first of all, your memory. that's always the thing, and having to trust it, and trust that you know what you're like. You really have to trust yourself that you know what you're doing, and that you remember what you're doing. I think the challenges are sometimes, there's that sometimes that feeling if you're understudying a name and there's the audience have come to see that person, there is always, you know, sometimes there's some negativity about this particular understudy being on because they came to see that person, and I think that's challenging. But yeah, and I think, you know, I think the thing that I've learned as well as an understudy is when I'm not understudying and when I'm on and the understudy is on, it's given me, you know, a massive appreciation of this is a different person playing this role right now. I'm the one that plays this every day, so I need to adapt to them. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that anybody ever made me feel like that, but I just think because I think a lot of people who I kind of worked with were previously understudies too.
Yeah.
But I definitely think having the experience of being an understudy, it gives you, when you're then playing a lead role, and when your understudy goes on as well, you're just like, oh, I just want you to have the best time. And then when you're playing with an understudy, then you're there to kind of like, what can I do for you? What can I do for you to make this easier for you? But yeah, but I think, you know, as a cover, I mean, I'm very lucky as in I like to say that I've got a swing brain, which is a brain that can kind of compartmentalize everything. And I can remember, like, sometimes my memory is the worst thing ever. But when it comes to scripts and song lyrics and where I'm meant to be, I remember it so well. So I think because I've got that just naturally, then it makes my life so much easier as a cover. Yeah. Whereas if you're a cover and you don't have that, if you just are not wired in that way, then I imagine that is very, very difficult. And I suppose until you do it, then why would you know? Why would you know if you can until you've had the experience of doing it? So I guess there might be some covers out there that do it once and go, never again.
What would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions about what we do and about the industry? You know, you hear comments from people who are not in the industry and things like that. They don't quite get what we do and understand it. What would you say are sort of the biggest misconceptions?
I think probably that it's really glamorous, because it's really not. Yeah, I think because a lot of what we do is very so for example, if you're in a theatre, like the front of house is always so spectacular and beautiful, and then you look backstage and it's, you know, mouse ridden. And it's the same with telly. If you ever go and watch a TV program being filmed, then you'll see like the stuff that actually goes out on screen looks fantastic, and then when you're actually sitting, you know, seeing it all, you're like, oh god, it is all smoke and mirrors. So I think there is that misconception with the general public about it. I don't know what else. What would be something else? I mean, that whole thing of, I don't know if you've ever had it where you've been with a family member and they go, oh, you ever thought about getting yourself on Coronation Street? That would be good.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, no, I've never thought about that. No, I tell you what, I'll give my agent a ring now and we'll set it up. Yeah. You know, that's that. They think it's easy.
Yeah, I remember growing up and always telling people I wanted to be an actor, and for some reason I seem to forget about theatre and always assume I want to go into screen acting and things like that. And I was saying to someone, I think before I went to college, and they were like, oh, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to be an actor. And they went, well, hopefully I'll see you in something. And I was like, well, who says I want TV and film? It is theatre as well.
Yeah.
And I was talking a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a guy who did Nativity the musical, Jamie Chapman, and he was saying that it's very common for people not in the industry to pick up when an actor's out of work and make a comment on it, say, oh, you're out of work and things like that. You wouldn't say the same thing to an electrician or something like that. If you knew an electrician, you wouldn't go up to them, go, you're out of work now, are you? You know, how are you doing? And I think that's something he said that really annoyed him.
Yeah.
Being out of work, that people would make those comments, seem to forget that, you know, I'm an actor, it's my job. Yeah.
There's Vicky McClure was on a podcast, How to Fail, the podcast, and she talks about like, because obviously now she is, you know, she's on a massive Line of Duty fan. So and she was talking about how when she did This Is England, she was then out of work, and then she worked for like a training company, and she'd have to run these training conferences and be like, and they're like, why are you here? And you know, you're fake, and it's like, well, I've still got my mortgage to pay and I've got no work. And And it's that, isn't it? It's like this misconception of like, once you've made it, you've made it. And it's sometimes it's like, no, because jobs are sporadic and we've all just got to pay our rent and our mortgage. So I
Yeah,
might be serving you a pint.
it's harder because the job I'm doing at the moment, I like it, and I'm working in the kitchen, and it's a good job. But there'll be days I'll be sat there or stood there peeling carrots, and a song would come on the radio, Dancing Queen or something. Like, why can't I be doing the finale of Mamma Mia right now? Why don't we sit here peeling carrots? And I had to look around to see if the chef was in the kitchen, and if he's not, I'd start singing along.
I love it.
I'd pretend I'm Donna.
I wish I'd seen that.
And the chef would come in and be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah. How are you getting on with the carrots?" I've done two. The whole song of Dancing Queen. Is that okay?
You're like, I'm using the carrot as the microphone, actually.
Yeah. What would you say to people coming into the industry, particularly now? What would your biggest advice, and what is there something you think people should know before coming into the industry?
I think my biggest bit of advice with this industry is knowing that there's room for everybody, and it's important that you are aware of how unique you are as a person, how unique we all are. We all are very, very different beings, and we all have something very special to offer that is unique to us. And I know that I spent the first however many years of my career not realizing that and trying to be something that I thought the industry wanted me to be, rather than just being like, this is who I am and you can kind of like it or not. And I'm not going to say that I'm completely there with that yet. I'd be lying, but I definitely feel a lot more like authentic, I guess, with who I am. And I think that is something to know for everybody, because I think especially nowadays with good old social media, we can look at what everyone else is up to and think that that's what we need to be. It's really knowing like who you are, what you have to offer this industry, and really like owning that. So I think that's probably what I would always tell people who are wanting to come into this crazy world of showbiz that is great, but is also very hard. So also kind of it's I'd say that's my advice. And then I'd also be like, the things to kind of be wary of is to be like, you need to not make this business be who you are. So this is my job. This is what I do. This is what I love. And this is what I am motivated by and I'm passionate about. But what the danger, I think, is if you become, if you base your worth on whether or not you're working, then you're going to do yourself a massive disservice, because you are going to be out of work for a lot of time. It's just reality. I mean, look at COVID. It's put every single person out of work. So I think it's that. It's knowing who you are and being able to separate that a little bit from, so having friends outside of the industry and not basing your worth on where you're at the industry, and doing the work because you love doing the work.
Yeah.
There we are. That was very long-winded, but yeah.
As COVID and the industry reopens, is there ways you think the industry should and could change, and maybe adapt and things like that? What do you think?
What do you mean, COVID related?
As in, other ways that the industry could change, as in, could it adapt to be a bit more, could they do a lot more online stuff? Do you think auditions would change and things like that? Or do you think?
I think self-tapes are probably here to stay for a while. And self-tapes have been building in the screen stuff for a good, and it's very solidified now, I think, with screen acting. And I think they might even stay for musical theatre as well, for first rounds, and then to whittle things down, and then they'll go into the room potentially, because it is a cheaper version. It's much cheaper to just not hire a room and be like, send out a load of self-tapes. Also, they can see more people. So that could be an option. I wonder if stream theatre might still be a thing, because there are, I mean, what with, say, for example, like the West End, and it's London, and if you live in the Shetland Islands, you might not be able to get yourself down to London very often. And there is this other way, I guess, of people to be able to enjoy theatre. So I do wonder whether or not it will stay. I was actually assisting Louis with the In Pieces feature that they did. And I've also got my tickets for Brooklyn tonight as well. So these are also kind of different, that they've kind of created like musical kind of films. So yeah, I wonder if they'll be a thing.
Yeah.
But I guess if it's a way of making theatre more accessible to more people in a different way, then I'm kind of like, you know, I think that obviously theatre as we know it will return, but I wonder if we'll adapt and there'll just be kind of more. And I feel like that can only be a good thing if there's more work and more going on. Yeah.
I was never really a fan of streamed theatre. Like there's something about being in the theatre that I was watching a show live that I love. I've watched a lot more streamed theatre recently, and I think I actually quite like it. It's not bad, and I think you see the opportunity to see shows that you wouldn't normally get to see. I mean, I can't at the moment. I can't just make it up to the north of England. If there's a show going on in Manchester, or like Rent, for example, the Hope Mill Theatre did. I can't get to see that because they're live streaming it. I can finally get to watch it, so I'm getting to see sort of more shows. And so, I think stream theatre, I think it's going to take a while for the bigger shows to do it. I think shows like Les Mis and Mamma Mia, it's going to take them a long time to probably give in and finally stream the shows.
Yeah.
I'm hoping at some point, you know, Judy Kramer will agree to live stream Mamma Mia at some point. I mean,
they'll probably be like, guys, you've got a movie. What else do you want? You've got 2 movies you can watch.
Heard they bring out a third one. I read the other day.
Yeah. No, apparently. I mean, I don't know anything. And I was talking about this the other day with somebody else online, and then I was like, yeah, apparently there's a number 3, and I was like, I have got no information. This is no inside info. I know nothing other than apparently, and I've heard it for a little while actually that there's a 3 coming. I mean, but I'm a bit like, what are they going to do with it? What songs are they going to use?
I read somewhere they're going to focus a lot on Harry Bright, apparently.
Oh, really? Yeah, I heard that, like his wedding.
Yeah, wedding and Harry. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know if this was real or if it was fake news, because you never know. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'm sort of pushing my agent now, going, if they're auditioning for it, can I be in it? It's not the original Mamma Mia, but to be in some kind of Mamma Mia. I don't mind that. Even if I'm a tree or something, I'll stand in the background.
Yeah.
I get to see dancing. While we're on Mamma Mia, you were in that show for quite a long time, and then you went backwards and forwards with it. What was that like, being in one of the biggest shows in the West End and getting to sort of rock out every night?
Yeah, I loved it. I did. I mean, so because I did it in London as in the ensemble, and I covered the 3 Dynamos, and then I did it then and then I went on tour with it for a bit, and then I did it on a ship, and I played Donna, and then obviously then doing Mamma Mia the Party, so it's kind of a bit like so many versions of Mamma Mia, but I just love it, and I love the music. Yeah. People always ask me that, are you bored of ABBA? And I'm like, I'm really not bored of ABBA. Like, I love ABBA. I love singing the songs. They just don't fail to kind of go, you see the way it affects other people. And you see how, I mean, I remember being in the ensemble of Mamma Mia in town, and I've still got this really vivid memory of a woman in the front row, and she was an older lady, and she was like, and you just go, oh, I'm a part of that. I'm a part of making somebody that happy. And I think that's what's so wonderful about that show, is it's complete escapism. And so many people love the music, and and so many people across so many generations just love, you get little tiny kids who are jumping around in the aisles, and then you've got these older people who are also just completely loving it. And so
I've seen it like 10 times now. I think I'm on the 10th or 12th. I've lost count. It's one of those, everyone knows I love Mamma Mia, so whenever I go up to see, if I go up to London to see a show, someone always messages me and go, "See Mamma Mia, are you?" And I'm like, the tour came to Southampton for 3 weeks last year, and I ended up seeing it twice, on the first night and the last night. I was going to go more, but I just thought, no, they're going to start recognising me if I start going a lot.
Oh no, that'd be like twice in 3 weeks is nothing compared to some people that can watch. Like we had a woman who, when I was in town, she every week Every week she was there in the box every week. Absolutely loving it. Oh, my doorbell's just gone. There's somebody at my door. Can I go and get it?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll pause this quickly. Yeah.
Recordings from home, and you're like, doorbell, package.
My doorbell's going to go in a minute. I just know it. It's going to...
Brilliant. Sorry. Anyway, Mamma Mia.
Did you get to go on for all 3 Dynamos?
I did. I did. I did Rosie once, and I was so ill. But they had no one else, so I think they. I seem to remember that the woman playing her had really hurt her ankle. One of the other girls was on holiday, and then another girl was like really sick, and then I had a chest infection, and I was literally like this was the voice that I had, and then they were like, I'm really sorry to have to ask you to do this, but do you think that you could do the show? Because otherwise we don't have a Rosie. And I was like, yeah, I could do something, I'm sure. And also as well because I wanted to be able to say that I'd played all 3, and it was awful. It was so bad. It was like, if you change your mind. Like, honestly, you know when you're just on stage and you're like, this is quite honestly embarrassing. This is so bad that it is so bad. Like, yeah. So, but one time and it was terrible.
In college, when I was doing The Tempest, there was a scene with 3 of us on stage. One of us forgot our lines, and we ended up doing the scene 3 times because we end up going around in circle with all the lines. That the audience heard the same. So we ended up doing the scene 3 times before I think it was me who remembered my line finally. We ended up picking back. I think you could hear someone in the front row just laughing because they knew what had happened.
Good old live theatre, eh?
How much notice do you normally get when you're going on for a cover? Do you normally get a lot of notice, or is it?
It can depend. Sometimes, so you might get your kind of scheduled date. So if you're a first cover, then you'll know that I'm going to be on next week because they're on holiday or whatever. Or if they call in sick that morning, there's usually like a cut-off time that might be at about 3 o'clock. So then you get a phone. So then most people know, they wake up in the morning, they're like, I definitely haven't got the show in me tonight. So you usually find out late in the morning. But sometimes people, you're dealing with human beings, and you might go into work and think that you can do it, and then you'll be in the warm-up and be like, I actually can't do this. So sometimes you might be in the building and be like, actually, you need to go on. And then sometimes you go on halfway through the show, and it's literally like, so there is no, that I think that is, again, the understudy has to be that person that is adaptable and willing to just be like, yeah, fine, no problem, let's go. Like, because if you're somebody that needs it's, well, no, because I thought I was doing this show today. I can't do this. No, you need to be like, absolutely no problem. Let's go. Let's do this. And every time it's so weird how I forget to eat. Like if it's you suddenly go into this like, right, and then you realise, and people are messaging you, and you're like, I have no time to respond. I can't eat. Nothing. All I have to do now is remember my show and go on. And you just go into this weird mode. So, yeah.
So talking about going on at the last minute, while you were in 42nd Street, you ended up doing some random performance of Mamma Mia, sort of hopping over. How did that happen? What happened?
Sorry, say that again. I missed that last bit.
Obviously, you ended up doing some random performance of Mamma Mia. How did that sort of come about? You going over and stepping in at the last minute. How did that sort of come about?
That just came about because they had a massive emergency where Caroline, who was playing Donna that night, stepped off a step, tore her calf muscle in the middle. Literally, well, look at what the tide's washed in. Yay! Stepped off, tore her calf muscle. Did that whole scene. Did money with a torn calf muscle. Came off, and apparently she was just like, no, I'll carry on. as we do. And they were like, you can't walk. No. Like, and they had nobody else in the building. 2 of the covers were off sick. And they just suddenly, I think the stage the company manager, I think, just remembered that I was sitting in a dressing room literally up the road, and went, I think he might have gone off his own back and made the call to my company manager and just said, look, is Steph in the building? Is she on? Is she free? And then got the phone call to say, like, yeah, because he then phoned me and he was just like, Mamma Mia phone, I'm just checking that you're here. And I was like, yes, I'm literally in my dressing room doing nothing. So then I think he then probably would have been like, right, Steph's free, should we get her down here? And that's how that all happened. The craziest night of my life, probably so far. Weird.
What do you remember? Did you sort of, was it like stepping back into a role you knew really well, or did you sort of forget things like?
Oh, it's like all the lines were there, all the songs. The only thing is that I had done a very different version of the show for 9 months of my life the previous year. So I had everything kind of in there, but the blocking was completely different. I was like, oh no, I do. I meant to stand at any moment. So there was just a lot of people just shifting me around. And then I think we got to Voulez-Vous. And again, the choreography was different. And I remember the dance captain trying to teach me the choreography in the wings before we went on. And I just was like, look, I'm not taking any of this in. And he's just going, right, okay, so you're going to do da-da-da. And I just was like, I remember just being like, I'm not just going to magically be able to do this choreography in like 30 seconds. So let's just, and then just, I remember just being like in the wrong place and then freezing and being like, just laughing, because I just was like, I don't know what I'm meant to be doing right now. This is the weirdest moment ever. But the actual scenes and songs and stuff were absolutely fine.
So did any of your castmates in 42nd Street know what had happened, or did they just know nothing until the end?
No, so me and Matthew Goodgame always used to have a cup of tea in the interval. That was kind of, he had a massive like 45-minute break. And I was obviously on a 2.5-hour break, just sitting in the dressing room, and he'd always swing by because he was next door. We'd have a cup of tea together, and I think he came up and like knocked on the door and was just like, "Where are you?" And he was just, he couldn't understand, and I think he messaged me and he was just like, "Where have you gone? Like what's happened?" And then I think the rumours started to filter through the building of that Steph's gone to Mamma Mia, and I don't even know how, but I think probably in the interval, like, people talk, don't they? And then it just started to like filter through all the ensemble in Act 2 that like Steph's in Mamma Mia, and it was just like, I didn't tell anybody. I had no time to tell anybody, and I remember just in the interval being like, oh, I just need to text my husband because I'm going to be home a lot later than normal. And I just sent him a message saying like, hi, I'll be home late, I'm at Mamma Mia. And he was just like, aren't you at work? Because he thought I'd gone to watch Mamma Mia. And I was like, no, I'm like in it. Yeah, it was very weird. But yeah. Like mad, like nothing like that. Like things like that just don't happen. They're kind of the things that you, I suppose, either have a nightmare about or dream about. And then it happened. Mad.
So what was it like doing the show on a cruise ship? What were the sort of the differences to doing it on land?
I mean, it was pretty similar. Like the show was the same. The only difference was that it was the American script. So some of the words were different. Blocking and choreography was completely different. But I think the thing that was the most different was the audiences, because you're doing a cruise and they're not there to see Mamma Mia. Yeah, they might pick that ship over others because they think, oh, I'd quite like to go and watch Mamma Mia. But the reality is they're there on holiday and they're there, and there's lots of stuff going on. So they might like watch the first half and then it's like, oh, now we're going for dinner. And they don't come back, or they wander in halfway through. It's completely different. And I remember this one time, and it was we had the interval, and then Act Two started, and I was like, "What else is love?" Giving it like really lovely soft singing, and all you could hear was somebody was like cleaning up sick in the balcony because that's the thing with ships. As soon as anyone's sick, has to be cleaned up just in case like norovirus spreads. So it was literally like, "What of us, man?" I was just like, "What the hell is going on?" Yeah, so things like that, I think they were the different things. The show was the same, but the actual experience from the audience was very different.
The audience response to the show the same as in London? I mean, Mamma Mia is known for having an amazing response from the audience. Is it the same on the ship? Do they love the show as much, or?
I mean, yeah. Sometimes we would have a finale where nobody stands up. So like obviously in London, everyone's on their feet and they're having a wonderful time. And then you would sometimes have these days where people would just they weren't as up for it. And I don't know if it's because they're not theatre goers and they don't know the etiquette of it, or they are theatre goers and they go to some very highbrow theatre where the idea of standing up and clapping and having a wonderful time feels weird. But there was a few days like that I think we would be like, "Oh, did they hate it?" And they still loved it, but just kind of didn't get the memo to dance along. And then I'd be like, "Come on, get on your feet!" That was me lifting my arm, just in case you didn't see that.
Some people have uploaded sort of recordings of the cruise ship production on YouTube and that, and I was watching a few of them quite a lot. I think there's one occasion where during the finale, you could see in the corner someone get up and leave. I think they just at the beginning of the finale packed their bags and went.
Yeah, probably because they had to go to dinner, or they had the ice show was starting. It's things like that. I think, like Mamma Mia on a cruise ship it's a very new concept. Because Grease is only a 75-minute version. We Will Rock You is only a 75 or 90-minute version. Everything is cut down, whereas Mamma Mia is the full show. So in order for them to be able to like sell that to their past, it's weird for them. It's like, hang on, what? This is 2.5 hours? But what about the rest of my night? So I think that's the thing, is you do have some diehard cruisers that are like, you'll get 90 minutes of my attention and then I'm gone. And you just can't take it personally. You're just like, oh, whatever. I'll just do my show and I'll do it to the best of my ability. And you can stay here or you can go to dinner. It's up to you.
Looking back over your career, have you got any sort of moments where things have gone wrong on stage or funny things have happened? Can you think of anything?
I've fallen over quite a few times. I fell over actually because there's a superstition that if you fall over in a theatre, you'll be back. And I fell over quite spectacularly in Mamma Mia in Under Attack, and then I was back. So it's obviously true. My skirt fell down once. That was just in like a cabaret show. I've had lots of falls, and I did forget my lines in Wicked once when I was on for Madame Morrible, and it was the worst moment ever. It was like, oh what's my line? And then the Glinda was just like, and then I just carried on. Oh, it was awful. It was just awful. Yeah, so, but nothing kind of where I just go, oh, there was this moment. Like, I feel like I don't handle things very well either. I just laugh. So that's the thing, is I'm not very good at dealing with it because I just find things very funny. And then I'm like, oh no. And then you realise, like, I did a farce about 9 years ago now, and I was working with this guy called Damien Williams, who's quite honestly one of the funniest people I've ever met. And I was playing his wife, and so it was a farce anyway. So the audience were laughing, but he would do things that, purposefully to make me laugh, and I just couldn't hold it together. And I was the worst person to be in that show because I just laugh. I just find things really funny and I can't deal with them. And then you just like lose the audience because you're laughing.
So what are some of your sort of favourite memories of your the shows you've done and things like that? What things have happened? You've gone, oh, I love that moment, or that was.
I think, okay, the moment that's coming to my head more than anything is that I got to do a Last Billy show as Mrs. Wilkinson. So I covered that role and I only played it like I think 8 times in total in the year and a half that I was there. But one of those times was, I think it was actually the last time I played it as well, was when a Billy left. And when the Billy, because they're so, they stay for a couple of years and they've obviously been a part of the show for a long time. And obviously they're amazing. So when they leave, like a massive fuss is made. There's a big party. There's a speech, and like all the producers and stuff come to watch. And it's a real electric performance. And I don't know if you know. Do you know Billy Elliot?
Sort of, yeah, vaguely.
So there's a scene, the last Billy and Mrs. Wilkinson scene is where she's literally going, "Don't think about here. You go off and you go and you're special and just go out and shine in the world." And so you get that moment, I guess, as the actors to be like, "Go on, like go fly," kind of thing. And for me, I think that's probably one of those special moments that I got to experience. And now, like, I see all these boys that are just smashing life, and it's incredible to see. So I think that's probably a high point. And then like doing the Oliviers with Mamma Mia, with Benny and Bjorn, not knowing that one day I'd end up like working with Bjorn and so yeah, things like that. And it's just, that's the thing, is a lot of the time this business can be hard. It can be unforgiving sometimes, but then there'll be moments that you just go, how am I here? How am I getting to experience this? And I think it's holding on to those that's why we do it.
Yeah. And what would you say is your sort of favourite thing about theatre and the industry as a whole?
I think it's the escapism. I think it's for me, it's all about the audience, and it's all about when you see. So if you're doing kind of a really good uplifting show, you get to see how you're taking people away for a few hours from whatever's going on in their life. And I think that for me is something that film and telly does it too, like, but not in the same way, not in that same all-encompassing and I and knowing it from an audience's perspective, or like when I've been in a show and then I've got to sit out and watch it, and you just go, I'm a part of that, and that's incredible. And I think that's for me what theatre provides for people, is that feeling of joy that I just don't know if you get like anywhere else. I mean, I'm talking, it would be very different if you're watching Hamlet. I'm not sure if you get that kind of feeling of joy from that, but it's still you are transporting people somewhere else, and you're taking them on a journey, and you're telling a story, and that's what I love for me.
One final question: what some people like dream shows and dream roles? What would you like to go on and do in the future? I
mean, I'm also a massive screen fan, so I'd love to do more kind of screen work. That's something that I'd love to do. Like Line of Duty, something like that would be amazing. But theatre-wise, I'd love to do. I'd love to be in Everybody's Talking About Jamie playing his mum. Like that, I feel like, because when I went to watch it, I was like, it's like a grown-up Billy Elliot. But even like, I'd love to go back to Billy. I'd love to play Mrs. Wilkinson, like, for real, not just cover it, play the role. I'd love that. I was too young, like, to even be, 10 years ago, and I'm like, come on, I'm getting old enough now. I've got the lines.
So in one of your concerts, you did "Me in the Sky." Is "Come From Away" something you'd like to do as well? Would you like to have a go?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like Beverly and "Come From Away" would be rather lovely. Yeah, just those kind of. I like strong women.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I like strong, fearless women.
Yeah. Look, thank you for joining me. It's been great
Oh,
to
thank
chat to
you.
you. Yeah, and take care. Hopefully, I'll see you on stage very soon. And yeah, thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
all right. Okay.